I dream about being able to build custom apartments in The Sims 4. I really, really hate that it's impossible to even edit any of the existing apartments, but wouldn't it just be so cool if we could build our own apartment shells? Unfortunately, we can't, and I'd be really surprised if they ever went back and did something like that. For now, we kind of just have to do some pretending, and so today I want to build my own apartment in The Sims 4, but like a fake one. So we're here on a 30 by 20 lot in Evergreen Harbor, and this is actually the lot where Tina Tinker normally lives, but I bulldozed her house and we're gonna build this instead. And the goal today is to try and build a more modern looking 4-story apartment building. The problem is, well, there's a few problems and I'll walk you through them. Number one, you can't build apartments in The Sims. It's just not possible. So as far as the game is concerned, I'm just building a house. When we think about apartments in The Sims 4, I think we're kind of thinking about the ones that came with City Living and those like actual functional apartments where you live in a building, you can only edit your space, the other apartments are grayed out, but you've got real neighbors living there. In this one, I'm just building a 4-story house and like drawing some custom shapes of where I think the apartments should go. But when it comes to actually playing in these apartments, it just works like a house. So there's a few ways that I have used custom apartments like this in the past. The first is that I would build the entire building and then choose one apartment to live in, and then I would have my Sims live there and leave the rest of the space empty. That's partially for like lag issues, but also for bill problems. If I'm just gonna live in one apartment, I don't really want to have 5 others that are fully furnished that I have to pay for with my bills. Also, even if I lock the doors, Sims can be so annoying when they have too many options of places to go. So like even in this apartment, we have a lobby, like sort of a shared space. If I was playing here, I'd leave that furnished, but like the front desk is made out of kitchen counters, and you just know you're gonna have your Sims like cook a salad and they're gonna walk all the way downstairs just to cook on those counters in the lobby instead of the ones in their apartment. Sims are just really something else sometimes. So when it comes to a building like this, you kind of want to minimize their options. So I would usually just play in one of the apartments, or say maybe I want to play with more than one Sims family at once. You can't really do that technically, but you can definitely pretend. So maybe I would have my Sim and her sister both live here in this building, but give them each their own apartment and like lock them out of each other's places. So I could have one Sim and like their son live together in one of the 2-bedroom apartments, and the sister could live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I could play with those 3 Sims all at once, just pretending they're in separate households. And the other option that I kind of don't really love, but is technically possible, I guess, is you could use the roommate feature that came with University. In the University pack, you can like have roommates come and live with you, like NPC Sims that will just be in your house. They'll pay a very, very tiny bit of rent, definitely not enough rent to like earn you a lot of money, but they'll pay a very small amount of rent, probably not their fair share, if I'm being honest. And then you can assign them a bed, and then you could just like lock the doors accordingly, so you could sort of pretend that they're living in one of the other apartments. I really like the idea of that in theory, but I think in practice, the roommates are so annoying. And then it kind of has that problem of the bills being too high and there being like so much furniture in the place that it's hard to play in. But all of that to say, basically, you can't make real apartments in The Sims. It has to be pretend ones. And those are a few ideas of how to do it. And the other problem with building these fake apartments is that we don't have elevators. This is something that I think a lot of people kind of forget about, because we do have elevators in the game, kind of. They added elevators with City Living, but they're not like real functional elevators. So when you place them, there's a few restrictions. Number one, and probably most annoying, you can only have 1 elevator per lot. So obviously in a building like this, there's 4 floors. There would be an elevator door on each of the floors, but in The Sims 4, you can just place 1 elevator per lot. So if you wanted to make a fake elevator, you would put like maybe one on the first floor and then have like a fake elevator shaft, I guess. But it's not functional and you can't even use more than one. The main issue though, I think, being the fact that it's not functional. Even if you did put an elevator here, you couldn't like use the elevator to get up to the 2nd floor. You actually can't interact with the elevators at all. Like you can't even click on them. You can't like woohoo in it. You can't do anything with the elevators. They're just there. In City Living, they kind of serve a purpose because they're like a spawn point for the lots. So when you like spawn into an apartment building, like the pizza delivery person will like sort of appear next to the elevator and then walk to your front door. Or if you're playing in a penthouse, the Sims would like spawn in front of the elevator when they come to deliver your mail and stuff. But they don't actually animate. There is no like entering and leaving of the elevator. It just kind of is there. And that means that this apartment is a 4-floor walk up, which is not ideal, especially if you actually wanted to play in the apartment. If you wanted to have your Sims living on that 4th floor, it's gonna be really, really annoying. And for that, I'm so sorry. But you can imagine the Sims will have to walk up and down all 4 stories just to get up and down to their apartment. When it's time for school, they're gonna be walking down 4 floors of stairs just to come out the front door. And that can be really annoying. There is a reason that I tend to play and build like smaller houses, and it's because it makes it easier for the Sims to function. function. But hey, this whole apartment is about storytelling and fun. So we can ignore the fact that if our toddlers try and climb the stairs, it's gonna take them literally all day. We can just pretend that's not happening and we can teleport them or something, you know, it's fine. Anyway, you can see we've made a lot of progress on the shell of this building now. I was actually really inspired by a bunch of like modern apartment buildings, like new build ones that I've seen in real life, kind of where I live. I found a picture of one that was kind of like this, that was in like Miami or something. Although the picture one was like 15 stories tall and looked like it was a block wide. It was enormous. There was way more than 6 apartments in there. But I really liked how it had a lot of those gray colors and also a lot of balconies. So there's actually 3 balconies on each floor in this building. So luckily a lot of the units have 1 and sometimes 2 balconies for them. I found that when I'm playing in apartments in The Sims, like with the real apartments, I really like having balconies. It's kind of fun to have an outdoor space because you can like put planter boxes and you can have like a patio area. It's just nice in general to have an outdoor space in real life, right? So it's nice to have that in The Sims too. I also tried to put a lot of other amenities in the building. Like I put a parking lot there. It only has 3 cars, but it's kind of a small little piece on the side of the building. And then we have the whole downstairs. I didn't put any apartments on the first floor, but I put a lot of things to be shared by the residents. It was kind of fun building this on stream because we all had all these ideas of like the kind of rooms that we could add. So I decided to do a laundry room and also a gym in the downstairs area. I know I've spent a lot of time talking about all the ways this building is annoying to play in, but oh my god, the laundry. Look, I know I put it there, but I put it there more decoratively. Actually, functionally, the idea of having my Sims have to carry laundry up and down the stairs in a 4-floor building is so horrible. They would not do it. They would just leave it. They would probably like walk downstairs and just leave it on the floor. Sims are so weird and so bad at laundry. It's like actually unbelievable. So if I were to actually play here, I'd probably delete the laundry room, to be honest. I hate to say it, but maybe I'd give it a shot for like a few in-game days and then give up and delete it. The gym is actually useful though. It's got a bunch of equipment. I put like treadmills, there's some weightlifting machines. We also have a yoga mat. Not to list some more negatives and some more downsides, but I put a TV in there in front of the treadmills and I just know my Sims are gonna like autonomously go in there and just like stand in front of the TV and watch it. The real lesson learned here today is that Sims are not smart and they're very annoying, but it's still fun to build this kind of thing. I really enjoyed like figuring out the layout of the apartments. I had 3 floors to work with and I tried to split them up into a few different sized apartments. So on that first floor, there's 2 apartments. One of them has 1 bedroom and 2 balconies and the other has 2 bedrooms. On the second floor, I made the entire floor just 1 apartment and it's got 3 bedrooms. And then on the third floor, there's 2 more 1-bedroom apartments and there's also a studio apartment. So there's a lot of variety in here and I kind of liked that about it. Also, a lot of the apartments are really, really small. Like that top floor has some really tiny apartments. And that's one of my biggest complaints about the default apartments that came with City Living. I really like a lot of them. The buildings are kind of cool, but they're really big. They're all almost like way too big. And they have some kind of weird things going on. Like the walls are so tall and I don't really want to build in an apartment that has like tall wall height. That's double the height of regular short walls and it's just too much. I much prefer decorating like tinier, cozier spaces. I think it's just way more fun. And that's the main reason I want to decorate these apartments, because I think it's fun. I list a lot of reasons I wouldn't want to decorate them, but the real reason is because it's fun to build this kind of thing. It's fun to like build these sort of pretend spaces in the game. I kind of made up a story for this apartment too. For some reason, I've got this theme of gnomes across a lot of my builds and a lot of my like more public builds like this one. Anytime I make like a community space, so like a gym, a spa I did recently, if I'm gonna put like a reception desk or some sort of reception area and the lot doesn't actually have a receptionist. So again, like think the spa, no one's actually gonna be staffed there. There isn't gonna be a sim sitting at the desk. So I like to put something there to pretend that there's staff working in the building. And so I've taken to using gnomes for that purpose. I've built 2 apartment buildings like this now and I've used the same business gnome both times. It's like this little gnome holding a briefcase full of money and you can see the cash like stuffed out the sides. And I pretend that this gnome is the landlord and it seems he is building quite the real estate empire. I mean, he's got a restaurant, he's got the spa, he's got gyms. He's buying up all the property in The Sims 4 apparently. The land grabs have got somebody to worry about. But I called this gnome Harrison. We decided on his name this week and this is the Harrison Apartments. In my head, he is evil. He's like an evil landlord, but I will say the building is quite nice. And I haven't actually played here yet, so I'm not sure how bad the bills are. Although I think the building costs like 200,000 simoleons unfurnished. Because in this video, I didn't actually decorate any of the apartments. I just made them. And I figured we could do a couple videos furnishing them soon. It just took me so long to make the shell that I didn't have time to furnish all of them. If we furnished all 6 of them, this would be a very long video. It would be like a 2-hour long video probably, sped up. But anyway, it's like 200,000 simoleons unfurnished. That does include the appliances though, because in this video, I put like all of the kitchens and the bathroom stuff down. So we've got like all of the plumbing. All of those fixtures are in, but there's no furniture. So there isn't like a bed, but you've got a fridge and a sink. And then to kind of help separate the apartments, I painted them each a different color. When I was looking at it from top down view, I was like, wow, this is kind of overwhelming. There is like so much going on. And I figured a lot of you might want to download it off the gallery and furnish them yourselves. So I did the floor plans and I kind of gave you like some hints basically of like what I thought made the most sense by putting in the kitchen stuff and also by painting them different colors. So like the two next to each other are green and blue. So it's kind of obvious which rooms belong to which apartment. But anyway, we're working on the lobby space now. So you can see I've done the gym area. I put a few things like some mailboxes and like a couple package lockers in there. I also put a bit of seating downstairs in the lobby space. I feel like the lobby is really, really big, like way bigger than it needs to be. It feels like a really fancy hotel lobby to me, which isn't exactly what I was going for. I almost wish that I had put an apartment downstairs on the first floor, but I didn't. It's too late now. It is kind of nice though, because if you were to play here, you've got a lot of options and there's room to like swap things out. A lot of people in my chat were like, oh, you should put like a meeting room or like some sort of workspace that they could use. Sometimes these like luxury buildings might even have like a kitchen that you could rent out. There's a vlogger I watch that lives in a building like that. They have a ton of fancy places you can use. There's like a rooftop workspace. There's like a kitchen, a huge dining area, and you could like rent them out for things. I felt like we didn't really need that in this Sims build, but I was kind of going for luxury building like that almost. Okay, also, I feel like I should mention this. I want to apologize if the lighting is really weird right now. It is extremely dark outside, but in a weird way because it's storming really bad. There's like a tornado watch and stuff. And I've got my lights set up in a way that it's nice when it's really bright in here, but it's not so nice when it's so dark and cloudy. So I'm sorry if I look weird. I think I look very cold and very pale right now, which I mean, that's kind of how I am. But usually the lighting we have is a bit warmer, so I'm sorry. Today is a very unfortunate day to have weather like this because I'm trying to record so much. I've been pre-recording because when I post this, today is actually Christmas Eve, and I really badly don't want to miss any uploads in December. I'm like really trying hard not to, but obviously with the holidays and like Dan's family is coming to America from England for the first time ever and staying with us over Christmas. So there's kind of a lot going on at the moment. It's kind of a big deal. And of course, it's lovely weather we're having. Hopefully it's better when they actually get here because yikes. We're almost done furnishing this whole downstairs area though, and then we're gonna move upstairs and start trying to figure out the floor plans of those apartments. I had mentioned that I put in like a default kitchen in each of the apartments. I really liked doing that. I really loved the idea of like having these beautiful, pristine, like model home looking kitchens in each one. I will say that it was actually kind of hard to figure out where to put them in some of the apartments though, because these are really small. A few of them are like really, really small. Because the places are so small though, I feel like you could make this into university housing pretty easily. I don't know if I would use all 6 units because some of them are kind of big, but maybe like just on the second floor. And then you could put kitchens but no ovens so it functions as university housing. And then you could have roommates. You could have a lot of roommates if you did it that way. I guess you could even put like one communal kitchen downstairs in that main area instead of laundry or whatever. And you could play here through university. I really just love the idea of stuff like this. I have so many ideas of ways you could like pretend with the apartment building. I know it's kind of silly, but this is like my favorite way to play The Sims is like sort of setting up a cool thing and like pretending it works this way. I know that's sad because obviously when you have to pretend, it means that the game's not working in a way that you want it to, but I love this kind of thing. And judging based on my Twitch chat when I built this, I know a lot of you do too. And if you like the idea of Sims builds, or if you like this kind of Sims build and you want to see me do it live, this took me like 3.5 hours as opposed to like the 20-minute video that I'm gonna post on YouTube. So if you want to see the full thing, you can always pop into my Twitch streams. My name is just lilsimsie on Twitch. The day that I'm posting this, I'm gonna be doing some baking actually, which is not The Sims. It's not even close to The Sims, but I think I'm gonna bake some like Christmas treats and stuff. And speaking of the holiday, Merry Christmas to those of you that celebrate. I'm pretty excited about Christmas this year. I'm a little bit nervous because we're having like Dan's entire family coming over, and I've never like hosted that many people at my house before. And it feels kind of high pressure because they've never been to America at all. They haven't even met my parents in person before. They've talked like online and stuff and like over call and things. Oh my gosh, the lights just flickered. Okay, yikes. But our parents haven't actually met yet with like COVID obviously, but also just in general, minus COVID, it's so hard to travel. So it should be a lot of fun, but also it's a big deal. Like it's gonna be a big week. I'll have to keep you posted on how everything goes. But we're kind of getting close to finishing the build here. I'm just putting a few last little details. Most of the end was just me putting in like toilets and sinks and stuff. So I'm sorry about that. But now that we're almost finished and the build is almost done. I want to pop back into the game and show you a tour of the whole place and like actually show you what each apartment looks like and how I split them up and stuff, because I know it is very hard to tell when you're just spinning around and looking at the whole building. There's like a bunch of floors and a bunch of apartments and it's all very confusing. So let's pop into the game. So I built this on this lot in Evergreen Harbor. You can see it's kind of like across the street from the other apartments, and I really like how it looks from the map view. I feel like it blends into the area so well. And this is what the whole building looks like. Oh, it's glitched a few things and there's a bird in the way. I swear I painted this properly. You saw it in the speed build, but whatever. I removed a sink. How does that even work? How does me placing that remove a sink? Okay, this game. Anyway, this is what the outside looks like. This is technically the back of the lot on the gallery. I don't really understand why, but this is the front of the lot on the gallery version. I guess because it's lined up with these houses, but I much prefer having it face the street. So we have like our little parking lot. There's a parking meter over here. We have a fountain in the front. And then kind of around the side, there's just some landscaping. There's a few trees and stuff. Nothing too fancy outside. On the inside, in the first floor, we walk in. Here's Harrison's little desk. We have the mailboxes here too. I also put one mailbox outside just in case like the mail delivery can't get in here. So I think this might be the main one for actual gameplay, and these are more just visual. Then in here we have a couple seating areas. I blocked off a corner because I didn't know what to put in there and I didn't want to make it too laggy. But over here we have a gym. We've got that laundry room that everybody shares. There's also a bathroom downstairs. This might be kind of annoying, like your Sims autonomously trying to use that one, but I felt like it fit pretty well in the space. And then upstairs we have the first units. So over here to the right, we have a 1-bedroom apartment. This one has 2 balconies, so they're very lucky, but you kind of walk into a little kitchen area. I picture maybe a dining table could go here. We have a big living space. There's 1 bathroom and then 1 small bedroom. And I painted this all blue, so it hopefully stands out as like one apartment. And then on the left side, we have the other apartment. The front door is right here. This one kind of has a smaller living space. It's sort of like one big open room. I have the kitchen in the back, and then maybe you could have like a living space here and a dining table up against the wall. They have got a little hallway with 1 bathroom and 2 bedrooms. They also have a really tiny balcony. This room is really, really small. I picture maybe it like being an office or something, but it could also be a nursery, I guess. Because, you know, the babies need balcony access, obviously. And then we have a bigger bedroom back here. On each of the floors, I put a little trash chute so that your Sims can throw stuff away and not have to go all the way downstairs. So that thing functions like one of these trash cans, basically, just to make things a little bit easier. And then upstairs, we have the biggest apartment. This one is 3 bedrooms. It has just the 1 apartment on this floor. And this has kind of the weirdest layout. You walk in through the front door here, and it's kind of long and skinny, basically. You have to like snake around the staircase. And so I made this area into a little kitchen. I kind of liked the little fridge nook over here. And I pictured like maybe a dining room could go here and like the living space over here. And then we have 3 bedrooms. The main bedroom actually has 2 balconies as well, which is pretty nice. And then upstairs from here, we have the smallest apartments. These are probably the most annoying gameplay wise because they're up so high. They're on the 4th floor, but they're my favorite ones, I think. So from this little hallway to the right, we have a studio apartment. So this one doesn't have like a separate bedroom. It's all just one room, but it does kind of have like a bedroom nook almost. I pictured you could put like a Murphy bed over here. We've got a pretty big kitchen and then maybe like a living space in this corner. Then they have their own bathroom right here. In the middle apartment, it's also really small. It's 1 living space, 1 bedroom, and 1 bathroom. So we've got a tiny kitchen and then this tiny living space. I really like how small it is though. And they have a pretty decent sized bedroom, but it's kind of a weird shape. And then like a little ensuite bathroom off of that. The studio apartment has a balcony, so they're kind of winning there. The middle apartment is tiny and has no balcony, but this left apartment has 2 balconies. They've got a little kitchen area when you first walk in, a small living space, like a really small living space, but they've got some outdoor areas to kind of make up for it. And then they have kind of a weird shaped bedroom, but it's got a huge sliding glass door to a big balcony. And then they have a little ensuite bathroom as well. And that is the entire building. It really is big, but I really like how it looks from the outside. And I had so much fun building this. This is one of my favorite builds I've done in a really long time, just because it's so fun to like imagine how the floor plans would work and stuff. So if you want to get this off the gallery, it's just called the Harrison Apartments. It does kind of have a lot of packs, and for that I am sorry. I don't really understand how I manage that because it's like empty, but I guess there's some furniture downstairs and stuff, and it costs 180,000 simoleons unfurnished. So who knows what it's gonna look like once it's actually got apartments in there. But I think over the next couple weeks, I'd like to try and do a couple build videos doing the apartments, and I think I might make the studio apartment first. I really love this one. I think it's so cute. So stay tuned for that video. And with that being said, I'm gonna end this one right here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everybody. And hey, Merry Christmas to those of you that celebrate if you're watching this on the day. And if you're watching this like 6 months from now, well, Merry Christmas to you too.